Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ryan, and today I'm joined by
Dave.
Ted.
And today we do Wizard vs. Sorcerer 2.0.
Jump down in the description below where you can find Nerdarchy, the newsletter, game weekly tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So there's been a couple of calls for us to, as we've had some more exposure to the 5th edition rule set, to revisit our thoughts and discussion on the Wizard v Sorcerer controversy.
Also, too, like some of the things, like I've turned the corner on some of the things when it comes to the Sorcerer. Ryan's been pretty venomous towards them the whole time. Even
this is where you're misspoken, sir.
I've been crunching some numbers. I have video evidence.
Sure. But that's about 2 years ago. Evidence.
No. I have throughout all the videos we've done since the Sorcerer versus. So don't make me break it out. I will totally sleuth this.
Then we're gonna stop this video, cut that in. But that is like a million times more editing than you're prepared to do. So
we'll have like a trial.
Yeah.
A nerd trial.
Yeah. So basically, your wizard is your utility, and your sorcerer is your just raw power.
He's your boom.
He's your boomstick for the most part.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So, I don't know how much in depth you want to go here. If you look at just the straight up spell slots, the sorcerer and the wizard wind up being exactly the same.
No. Well, yeah, slots, yes.
The number of slots. The wizard only gets 5 cantrips, whereas the sorcerer gets 6. But the sorcerer, other than cantrips, he only knows 15 spells.
Whereas top level wizard gets 25 spells known per day.
Minimum.
Yeah.
And then
No, I mean that's like
day,
you maxing out your intelligence and your level. So we're saying 20 level versus 20 level.
Okay, I was talking about spells known, and for the wizard there is no
cap.
end.
There is no cap.
The truth of the matter is too, the sorcerer really can cast way more spells than the wizard.
Yeah. Well, so I've run some numbers, and since you're capping out with your flexible casting feature, right? If you were to cannibalize your 2nd through 3rd level spells, because 1st level you might want to keep around the 1st level slot or 3 for the shield spell. It's always going to be a super useful spell. But what the sorcerer really shines at doing is cannibalizing your 2nd through 4th level spells to always get 5th level spells, and this way throughout the day you can pick up an extra. If you maximize that, pick up
5th level slots.
5th level slots. You can get an additional six of those. So that lets you cast 9 5th level spells. And as a sorcerer, what you want to do is use every single bonus action to be sacrificing out spells and creating spell slots, or doing Did
you say 9?
9 total.
That's 6 more than the wizard can cast.
Well,
right.
Yeah, that's the 6. That's the 6 that you're creating by getting rid of your 2nds, 3rds, and 4ths.
Yeah. I'm just
right,
saying.
and so you're basically always going to pump your spells like a chromatic orb or any spell casting that you could possibly do. You should either make your spells a 5th level spell, or every single round you should be quickening spells or other uses of metamagic feats, because the sick thing about the wizard or the sorcerer is they get to blaze through the action economy, where casting a quicken spell for only an additional two sorcery points, you have an action every single round. If you have a spell effect that's a concentration based thing, then telekinesis or anything that costs an action, you could always trigger that and have casted a new spell. So a fireball, lightning bolt, this or that.
Right.
So again, you're an eldritch battering ram. The unfortunate thing is, the sorcerer takes a long time to get going and to shine, whereas the wizard is the more effectual thing to play at lower levels of play.
I would agree.
And that's really the thing. It's like, do you want to wait until 10th level on to be really cool, or do you want to have this like moderate power arc throughout that the wizard gets?
There's some other things too, like the fact that I feel like the sorcerer can basically take an uppercut and keep concentrating on his spells.
Yeah.
Where the wizard's going to struggle with that a little
Or
bit
at
more.
least has a much better chance. But for the fact, like certain utility spells like mage armor, you're much less inclined to take as a sorcerer. And pretty much what the build of the sorcerer tells you to do is play the Draconic Bloodline. don't. I mean, like, really, until you can control what your surges are doing to where they're beneficial for the wild magic one. Sure, when you have a bit of control over that at 14th level, you become a pretty interesting choice. But if you have to grind away from first level up to 14th level, it's going to be a hell of a climb. And so many of your abilities triggering, because if you're playing the wild magic sorcerer, you want those things to trigger, are reliant on your GM triggering them and making them happen, right?
Not a problem in my game.
Yeah.
But not a problem for that. But if you have a GM who's forgetful or
doesn't really want to make it a high
Yeah,
priority
I've
in the
literally
game,
just tell my players if they're playing a wild mage sorcerer,
you can trigger it on your
your next spell.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't care what it is.
And see, so that's the difference too. Like, the wild magic sorcerer is contingent on GM fiat, and if your GM is not acquiescent to that fiat, then you may as well not play it.
Right.
And just take
do
Storm Sorcerer or Draconic Bloodline.
I do it for two reasons.
Yeah.
Personally, I want you to be able to use your Tides of Chaos over and over again.
Yeah.
Because it's a core mechanic
It's
of
a
that
core
class.
feature. Yeah.
And two, I want to see you blow up the party. Really.
Yeah. And another thing I will point out about the sorcerer, the Metamagics is what is it? Is it heightened spell? Yeah. So heightened spell, right? You can give for 3 sorcery points. You can make one of the targets of your spell. Let's see, to make let's see.
Is that the disadvantage?
Give one of them disadvantage, right? So for 3 sorcery points, you can give somebody disadvantage. You have the lucky feat. You can give them super disadvantage where they pick the worst of 3 dice. So that together, boom.
And
it makes
obviously the lucky feat works really good with the concept of a chaos.
Yeah. It's thematically, I am so sad that I did not take heightened spell yet. But as soon as I get the Metamagic slot for Falcor, I will be taking it.
So since we're looking at this,
Both classes.
Well, right. Since we're looking at this both classes, but we're looking at this as a secondary review.
Yeah.
How do you feel now? Do you feel that the sorcerer is still boned, or do you feel now that they are a little bit more balanced in comparison?
They are a class with a second act. Like, again, it's a much harder road to hoe if you're going levels 1 through 10. Like, if you have to play through those levels, if you're to play a sorcerer or a wizard, you would have had a much
easier time of it,
steadier power progression.
Well, I feel like
if you're playing a high level game, then the sorcerer is awesome. Like, oh, I get to just play a 15th plus level character, then a sorcerer is a solid pick. But those levels leading up to it's a lot harder.
I feel like with the Draconic origin bloodline, not so much, because you permanently have mage armor, and you're getting an extra hit point a level. They're pretty
the
big.
spell tax, the sorcerer cannot afford a spell tax of a mage armor spell. Like, I didn't take it, and my character's solution to being in melee range or just being targeted by things, most of the time I'm just going to get hit. Is really or I might have a shield spell, or and also we house ruled Ben Luck, right? We made it even more swingy to where with this D4, unless you're on the cusp of the difference of one point of something mattering, I would never spend 2 sorcery points hoping I'm going to roll a 2+ to do something, because I would do so many more interesting things with my sorcery points.
Yeah, we kind of changed Ben Luck to make it more like the barbarian, or not the bard.
The Bardbarian.
Yeah, the Barbarian. Like the Bard's inspiration to even things out.
Yeah, now it's more swingy and interesting, whereas if I need to roll a 3+ for something to happen, I feel okay with spending 2 sorcery points for that. Whereas as
rolling a D8 as opposed to I've got a 25% chance of making this really happen.
Yeah. So there's no, it would be literally those instances where the roll was missed by 1, because combat in D&D is kind of like playing Battleship. Like, once you figure out the target AC of a creature or whatever, it's just all right, let's cut through the crap, and we all know that hits.
Right.
So then it's you need to hit AC 25, you rolled a 24. All right, I'll spend this Ben Luck right now because you hit really hard, for say the Barbarian or
the fighter or the goblins.
Yeah, exactly. That hit really hard. So I feel a lot better about Sorcerer at the high levels of play, is what I'll say on it.
So there's also a couple things to point out that maybe we didn't cover in our initial video. One, again, we had brought it up earlier, is the fact that Constitution is a saving throw, good saving throw for the Sorcerer, which is huge.
When you're making concentration checks.
But it's also a really good saving throw in the game in general, too.
Yeah.
Only Dex is better.
It's like Dex, Wisdom, and Constitution are all like solid saving throws that you wouldn't be
and that harkens back to the 3rd edition when you had Fort Reflex and Will.
Yeah.
And 5th edition kind of changed. 4th edition kind of changed it to incorporate all 6 stats, and you kind of got to pick your better. And they're like, oh, we want to go away from that. Now you can make saving throws for any of them, and those 3.
Some are super rare. Like Charisma is like, well, there's a few. There's like Undead that does that kind of damage, and maybe some sort of like outsidery type of things. You have like Psychic attacks, attacking intelligence, but by and large, those 2 stats aren't coming up to things super
as
often.
Much as the other ones.
Where Strength, if you have a big burly creature that does some sort of effect, it's usually attacking Strength, sometimes Con.
Right.
So that's the balance on those things too. But then again, like, if something hits you for like 40-some points of damage, a DC 20 con save is still a DC 20 con save. Like, as a sorcerer build, you're probably putting con as like your 2nd or 3rd highest stat, but probably usually your 3rd highest because Dex is super important too. So that's sort of a thing to consider.
Then you have, the other, actually, it's still concentration, but the fact that the Sorcerer can do something that no other spellcaster can do in the game, and that is basically concentrate on 2 effects at the same time.
With Twin Spell.
With Twin
2
Spell.
of the same effects.
Yeah. It doesn't seem huge, but it's pretty unique to them. They can haste 2 party members. They can enlarge 2 party members.
Suggestion 2 party members.
Give me all your gold.
Yeah. Like, you want to be a pauper. But no, so suggestion on enemies, and especially you can twin it, which is nice for a spell that lasts for 8 hours. Like, go to a kingdom that's like miles and miles away or something like that. Or you could do the extended spell for a single sorcery point. Suggestion becomes a 16-hour long. You have to concentrate on it, but that's 16 hours. You could have somebody go deliver a pizza to across the sea. Like, for 16 hours, they think that's a great idea.
Also, one of the other things that I was talking with Ted when they were talking about the sorcerer, if you're a sorcerer and you happen to be multi-class into cleric, you could twin heal spells.
You can twin a lot of, well, I mean, yeah, any 2, if you dip into, which isn't bad, Warlock, like I would have to weigh out the idea of dipping into Warlock for 2 levels, but it seems like a good play with getting a familiar for spell resistance if you wanted to do that. You can cannibalize your spell slots from Warlock, but also twinning Hex on somebody, so you're giving disadvantage to certain groups of saving throws. Again, plays nice with luck, because then you could screw them over with that. Any extra damage because you are an arcane battering ram, and Eldritch Blast, not a bad spell.
Sorcerer Warlock does have the advantage of having the same prime stat, whereas Cleric is going to Wisdom, not the prime stat. So
yeah, I mean, so you're hosing yourself out of 1 6th level spell, or 1 7th level spell, and 1 6th level spell, but otherwise. And hey, this is interesting. The Sorcerer gets another ability increase. I don't think any other classes, I mean, other than Fighter and Rogue. So I think they get 1 extra ability increase that other class. Oh, no. The other classes get the 19th. Yeah, never mind. So I lie about that.
It's just where the split is. They don't always get them all
it's usually even 4s. So yeah, that's
well, yeah. The last one is the 19th. So you have it when you hit level 20.
Yeah,
it is kind of the way it's been done. You're like, did I miss one? Because I thought once I realized, because we didn't realize at first that the Fighter and Rogue got extra ones.
Yeah,
I went back through all the classes to see if everyone else did, and I'm like, no, it's just these guys right here.
Yeah.
So I guess with our reevaluation of Sorcerer vs Wizard is the Wizard has stayed exactly where he was before, but the Sorcerer has come up a little bit. It's a little bit better. Chaos Sorcerer still needs a little work. It really does pal compared to the other versions.
Yeah, like, so the one we were talking about two things. So Ben Luck about making that more swingy and in line with the Bardic Inspiration, basically mimicking what those dice would be, and also Spell Bombardment. Like, it's a horrible ability as by Raw that basically should be you should have more exploding dice, because why do that once? It's kind of a worthless ability at 18th level. So.
What is it when you roll the max the die?
One die. You get to explode one die, and it's just like, well, keep that going. Like, make that more epic and significant when that happens, because to do it once is just.
Or like if they would have worded it like up to your charisma modifier.
Yeah, up to your charisma modifier, because that's also in line with some of the metamagics you do, and who's not going to have a 20 charisma as a sorcerer. Like, I feel like it's one of the few things, if you don't get a 20 charisma as a sorcerer, you're playing it wrong, because the things with like an empowered spell keys off of that as well, so you kind of want to do that. And twin spell to have two things make a saving throw, you want them to lose to fail.
The spell bombardment, it does only affect one die in the pool, but it's a constant thing, so you can do it every round. So it's not like
essentially every round. It's saying more than likely, especially the higher level spells, you're going to get to roll one extra die. That's not really that great for an 18th level ability. It's not as good as Hex.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
less good than
would you rather say, like, all right, you have the ability to use it a number of times a day equal to your charisma modifier, and all dice that you happen to roll, you can call it once you see your dice?
Well, that's it. Like there's a couple of iterations that we'd have to discuss on that.
Yeah.
One being, maybe they keep exploding until no more exploding can happen because you don't roll max anymore, and maybe it's once a short rest, because that could be really significant.
Well, I would say that the way I would want to see it done is like anything that has a reroll mechanic, like you just reroll the dice once, so it's not going to keep exploding. But say if it's a D8 effect and you roll two or three 8s there, you get to reroll those sets of dice, and it doesn't keep happening. But once, I think, is pretty legit. It's significant when it happens, and I mean, maybe it's once per encounter that you can expend it, or then it goes once per short rest, really.
Yeah, well, it would be per short rest, or you can do it so many times a day equal to your modifier. Like that's the way I would see it. But one die, it's not horrible, but it doesn't necessarily.
Sure, it's better than the barbarian ability that you can intimidate as like an action or something like that.
Yeah. But it's not horrible, but it's not an 18th level power.
Yeah.
So
especially from like a build or an archetype that's lackluster pretty much mostly throughout, other than the 14th level controlled chaos. That's cool. But the other abilities are, again, based on the whims of your dungeon master and this and that. So
and the other thing too, there's no guarantee even with the reroll on the
dice.
On the dice, it doesn't guarantee you're gonna get something good, even though you're rolling two choices from the random table from your wild magic.
But
I got a fireball and a sheep. Well, I'm going to take the fireball because I'm in the middle of everyone and I'm resistant to that shit.
In correspondence, the 18th level dragon presence, you spend 5 sorcery points, and for the next minute, any adversary can either be charmed or frightened, your pick, after they succeed or fail on a wisdom saving throw. So it's not fantastic. If you're playing that type of character that you want to charm and frighten people, great.
It's expensive.
But it's expensive, whereas the spell bombardment, as written, is beneficial all the time.
But it's an extra die.
Sure, but
what's it really going to do at 18th level? Like, it's not that much. You're an extra. Let's say you used poison breath spray. It's one extra die 12 is probably not going to turn the tide of the battle.
Well, and then also too. The Draconic Sorcerer gets a bonus hit point. Doesn't have the tax of mage armor and can fly whenever they want.
I was just comparing the 18th.
Sure, but
powers.
you have to look at everything because some of the way the class builds are they're counterbalanced.
I agree.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I was looking at just the raw straight 18th level powers, and you're right. You can't necessarily look at it that way.
And charming someone or a fear effect can actually turn the tide of the battle.
That's true.
Where that extra die 12 of damage, because we're going to use the biggest one because nothing does a die 20. Probably not.
It
could be the one that puts them down, but you know.
If every round you're significant, well, not significantly, but if every round you're doing more damage on average, it means you are going to be performing better without an actual cost. So, like I said, it's not horrible, but it's not fantastic.
I mean, I guess, again, so I can see the point where, because it is round after round, casting after casting, and by average, that does become significant.
Especially if you're using
like a poison
empower, because you're using empower to
the odds are gonna be in your favor.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is kind of, what is it? Whenever you raise the level of a spell, you get an extra die. So it is like all of your spells, by and large, could function as if they were one spell level higher in a way.
Right, yeah. And that's what it's going to be. You know, when you're rolling 7 die 6, well, you're getting 8. So you're going to get that average of extra 3 damage. Or if you're rolling...
even with a cantrip, if you have an empowered spell, you're almost... like, and you have a +4, +5 modifier, so you basically... 20th level with your cantrips, you're pretty much re-rolling all the dice that aren't max.
So here's the thing, right?
Yeah.
It's anticlimactic, but maybe, like Ted said, it's not
maybe
bad.
from the balance standpoint, you get to use it pretty much every single round.
You know, it's like being an accountant. There's nothing exciting about it, but it's very crucial.
Yeah. I mean, remember, it's like Office Space, where like they screw up the algorithms and then they embezzle like millions of dollars at one shot when they really wanted to just take pennies.
This is the sorcerer's version of taking a penny each time.
Yeah, a penny per transaction, or a tenth of a penny. Yeah.
All right, so I think that covers it.
Yeah, I think so. We've turned the corner on the sorcerer,
and Ted's convinced me and just made me turn a corner on something. I mean, Ben Luck, you're not going to counter argue, but spell bombardment, I'll give you that. It's reasonable, well reasoned, sir.
So, what do you guys think? I'm certain some of you have already weighed in on our other Sorcerer versus Wizard video. What do you have to say now? Did we dissuade you one way or the other? Put your comments down below while you're at it. Like, share, even subscribe.
You can conjure us on Twitter.
You can patronize us in a good way over Patreon.
So until next time, stay nerdy.